now.
Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, one time in my career, I was on a bum of my tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right, you know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass, because without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to BPO Sports TV. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, the life and career of Brian Castano. Brian Castano today. As a family today, it's Friday. At the end of another big week of boxing history, completing the first year of 2026. And it's Profile Day. Brian Castano, Argentinian boxer. Haven't been in the ring in a minute. What was it, 2023, when they had the 2 fights with Mel? He's not officially retired either. But we're going to see what he's been up to today. They said the exchange rate is off the charts down there in Argentina where Castano resides. So he got those 2 big paydays from Mel and probably became a billionaire. Took those dollars down there to Argentina, probably became a billionaire. Castano said, I'm done. But we're going to take a look at Brian today. Big weekend of boxing. Subriel Matias back in action this weekend. Ajit Carbayel also in action. So this is a big month starting 2026. We got Durdo in there next Friday. And he got the big fight with Benavidez coming up. What is it, March? So Zerdo fighting somebody else next week, and suppose he loses. And him and Benavidez still on, that would definitely take some of the shine off of it. But yeah, Zerdo fighting next weekend. And then the following week, we got the big one for the vacant with the IBF belt between Andy Cruz and Raymond Muratalla. And then we got Shakur and Teofimo the following week. Last day of the month, 31st. Then Desires also in action. Bakram, Murtazaliev. Big month of boxing. January is getting us off to a roaring start this year. Hopefully, every month can be like that, on through the year. We have a big 2026. But we're going to get ready to get started with our fight of the day today. We got a big day today. Brian Castano, and he's an Argentinian boxer. So at the end, we're going to look at, we're going to stay on Argentina, look at 10 of the top fighters out of Argentina in boxing history, like Nicolino Loche, Sergio Martinez, Pascal Perez, and then the master of all the Argentine boxers, the legendary King Carlos Monzon. No doubt the best to ever come out of Argentina. We're going to take a look at them guys at the end, some other Argentine boxers. The Boxing Menu podcast in the building. Salute. Ohio in the building. Yeah, BBO Sports TV and the Boxing Menu podcast. Ohio is in the building. All right. Salute the Boxing Menu podcast. Two great channels, too. BBO and the Boxing Menu podcast. Yep. But salute, gentlemen. We're going to take a look at Brian Castano today. But first, our fighters of the day. Got to have that. Can't have no Cat Sports without that historic fighters of the day. Now, it might be something that happened last week because that's history, right? But we're going to go a little bit further back today for the fight of the day. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. Subriel Matias back in there. Used to be the boogeyman at 140. But 140 is starting to get crowded and looking good. Shakur, Keyshawn up there. Shakur said he's going back to 135. I don't know. I don't think so. But Keyshawn is there to stay. Abdullah will be there eventually. Speaking of Ohio, Abdullah Mason will be at 140 eventually. So yeah. Boxing is looking good. We're in a good place starting out this year. But let's get into the fighters of the day now. Okay? With this thing kicked off, we're going to have our fighters of the day. Then we're going to get into Brian Castano. I was saying his name wrong, Castano. That's the English pronunciation, Brian Castano, but it's Castano. I looked it up on that speech pronunciation app. It's Castano. But let's get into the fighters of the day now. Get this thing kicked off. But how's the family this afternoon? Friday. Beautiful weather outside. Up in the 50s, around 50 up here in Baltimore, Maryland. Crazy, man. It's supposed to be wintertime. But I ain't complaining. Okay, but now, without further ado, today's fight of the day. All right. Today's fight of the day is Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera. June the 25th, 1935, the Brown Bombers' first big splash. All the way back to 1935. Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera, June 25th, 1935, the Brown Bombers' first big splash. All right, the Brown Bomber was a young fighter then, had less than 20 fights, just becoming noticed. This was his first big step up. Remember, he beat those 5 previous champions. I believe Primo Carnera might have been the first of them. But let's get into it. The Brown Bomber today and the fighters a day. Again, June 25th, 1935, the Brown Bombers' first big splash. Okay. After Jim Braddock demystified the frightening power of Max Baer on June 13th, 1935, it drove the heavyweight division into an unexpected state of flux. Braddock's inspired 15-round upset decision over the long-armed 6'4" Baer lifted the crown and also created a sense of anticipation that hadn't existed before. Prior to the upset by Braddock, the general thought was that the destructive Baer would reign as champ for many years to come. Baer was seen as head and shoulders above the rest of the contenders and pretenders in the heavyweight division at that time. Okay? Braddock's shocking victory changed people's perspectives. Shocking win by Braddock. An article in the Chicago Tribune dated June 20th, 1935, a week after Braddock's triumph, includes the name of Joe Louis in a short list of legitimate contenders for Braddock's crown at the time. The others on the list were all former champions: Max Baer, Max Schmeling, and Primo Carnera. And this article was just a week before Joe Louis and Primo Carnera were scheduled to meet at Yankee Stadium in what would be Joe Louis's New York debut. Okay? The New York debut of the Brown Bomber. Now, Louis was still very young, but he had a reputation. Okay? He had been the Golden Gloves champion of 1934, the year before, and had set aside every opponent in his path as a professional, mostly by knockout. As the unnamed writer of the article in the Tribune goes on to say, Joe Louis, who has been termed the Brown Bomber, is a newcomer to the top. Out of the amateur ranks, only been a pro a year. 18 knockouts out of 22 opponents. He had 22 fights in his first year. 18 knockouts out of 22 opponents. He shows a punch, and punches are what fight crowds like. They are what earned Joe this chance. He shot at Carnera, one of the top-ranked heavyweights at the time. Okay? From the time that Louis, the knockout sensation from the Midwest, was made with ex-champ Carnera, from the time this fight was made, the public interest was huge. And the interest only intensified after Braddock's shocking victory over Baer. A crowd of 80,000. Crowd of 80,000 was expected. A crowd of 80,000 was expected at Yankee Stadium, including tens of thousands of Black Americans from Harlem, to see how the young Louis would fare against the much more experienced and much bigger Carnera. Okay? Yeah, the Black public was very interested to see this Joe Louis getting all this hype and everything. 22-0, 18 knockouts in his first year in the sport. Won the Golden Gloves his final year as an amateur, okay? In the same June 20, 1935 issue, excuse me, of the Chicago Tribune, there was a report from Carnera's training headquarters in Owasco Lake, New York. It said, a superbly conditioned Carnera, the report said, went through 8 tough rounds of sparring without even breathing hard. There's a shot of Big Primo. Went through 8 rounds of hard sparring, wasn't even breathing hard when it ended. Mike Rem in the building. Salute, Mike. This is the fight of the day. Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera. Joe Louis' first big step-up fight. He's 22-0 with 18 knockouts in his first year of professional boxing, coming off of Golden Gloves in the amateurs in 1934. This was June 25th, 1935. Okay, salute, Mike Rem. All right, so yeah. Primo was in great shape, having a great training camp leading into this fight against Joe Louis. Unfortunately, one of Carnera's sparring partners was a decent heavyweight from Washington named Nate Brown, who went 10 hard rounds with Joe Louis on March 29th, 1935 at Detroit's Old Olympia Stadium. And that's why Primo Carnera's camp brought Brown in, because Joe Louis's last fight was against this guy, Brown. And Brown was much quicker than Carnera and slapped the former champion around, according to the Tribune reporter. So this guy supposedly slapped Carnera around in the sparring. So that gave an indication of what Joe Louis might do to him. Now, Brown caused consternation to Carnera's handlers by the ease with which he pounded the huge Italian. Okay? They were kind of concerned because Joe Louis had knocked Brown out. Here's a shot of Carnera and Joe Louis leading into the fight. So, Carnera himself was undisturbed, however. When interviewed by the Tribune's famed sports writer Wilford Smith just 2 days before the fight with Louis, Carnera expressed supreme confidence. Carnera was sitting at a bar adjacent to the roller skating rink and gurgling a bottle of ale at the resort in Owasco Lake where he was training when Smith interviewed him. This Louis is just a kid, Primo said with a wide, toothy smile in his own brand of broken English. Who he fight? Knock out me, the Preem? Ho-ho. I pushes the fight like this. 15 rounds I push, 20 if permitted, and no tired. Then I win. Primo was supremely confident, okay? Of course, as the history books tell us, and the ring records verify, things did not go quite as the Preem planned on the night of June 25th, 1935 in Yankee Stadium. Louis was every bit as lethal as advertised and was simply too skilled and too fast for the muscular but awkward Carnera. Yeah, Joe Louis was too much for him. There's Carnera on the mat. Joe Louis was just too much. Louis discovered early in the fight that he would not be able to effectively reach the taller Carnera's head with blows until he had invested in a body attack. Carnera, who came into the ring with an 83-win, 7-loss record and weighing 265 pounds, 260 pounds, 65 pounds more than Joe Louis's 195. And Carnera had only one weapon that caused Louis any difficulty at all. Carnera's jab didn't hurt Joe, but kept him off stride at times as Louis stalked the bigger man. The way he kept coming back with that jabbing left puzzled me, so I didn't feel sure when I would knock him out, Louis told reporters after the fight. That he knew he was going to knock him out, but he wasn't sure because of that good jab Primo had. Now, according to the ringside report of Harvey Woodruff, Louis used a two-fisted body attack in the second, third, and fourth rounds to systematically lower Carnera's guard and set up the former champion for a fresh assault to the head in the 5th and 6th rounds. Okay, so Joe basically broke him down. Primo, feeling these short blows of tremendous power from either hand, was instinctively and unknowingly lowering his guard more and more. His chin now loomed as a big target. In the 5th and 6th rounds, Lewis raised his blows. He not only hooked, but he put body leverage behind his punches. The result was inevitable, even to a man of Carnera's recuperative power and gameness. It was a humane act when referee Arthur Donovan stopped the encounter. Along the way, Lewis knocked Carnera down 3 times in the 6th round. Okay? Carnera was clinging to the ropes and bleeding heavily from the mouth when Donovan finally stepped in and stopped the fight at 2 minutes 32. 6th round, 2:32 mark. Immediately after the fight, promoter Mike Jacobs announced that Lewis would face still another former champion, Max Baer, in the fall at one of the New York ballparks. That was the one that Carnera had just took the title from. It is Lewis and Baer. That's Lewis and Baer on my opening too, right? For Lewis, the fight with Baer would be another big step on the path that would eventually lead to a title shot against Braddock in June of 1937. He was still 2 years away from his first title shot. A stunning defeat at the hands of Max Schmeling in June of 1936 at Yankee Stadium temporarily derailed the championship express of the Brown Bomber. Yeah, that loss to Schmeling derailed it a little, but just temporarily. Lewis would eventually turn the tables, however. Lewis was always better the second time around. Yeah, just like Muhammad Ali had 11 rematches, never lost a rematch. I believe Joe Louis had 10 and never lost. However many rematches he had, he never lost a rematch. Joe Louis or Muhammad Ali. Never lost a rematch, okay? That's saying something. But there you have it, the fighters of the day. Joe Louis versus Primo Carnera. Joe Louis is the Brown Bomber's first big step up, and there is the Brown Bomber with his hand raised in triumph. First big step up he passed. 2 years away from his first title in the beginning of that 12-year consecutive streak as champion. 27 championship fights, 26 successful title defenses. One in there was like for a minor, wasn't for the major titles or something. But he did take 4 years off for World War II though, so yeah. But everybody did, so he was still champion. Okay, today is the life and career of Brian Castano. Here's Brian from Argentina. And this is gonna take us to about 3:30ish. We're gonna look at the 10 of the other top fighters from Argentina. You know, Nicolino Lopez, Sergio Martinez, Pascual Perez, and the master of the Argentine fighters, King Carlos Monzon. Okay? But first, Brian Castano today, the life and career. But how's everybody? It's Friday at the end of another big week of boxing history. Ending the first full week of 2026. We got Subriel Matias in there this weekend. Former boogeyman at 140. Former. Greg Russell Jr. is a boogeyman now at 140. 140 getting crowded. Arguably the best division in boxing. Shakur is there now. Keyshawn getting ready to have his first fight there too. Him and Shakur on the same card. Keyshawn and Jermaine Ortiz is the co-main of Shakur and Teofimo, 31st. Then Nazias fighting that day. Bachman fighting. Zerto fighting next Friday. And Subriel tomorrow. And also tomorrow is Ajit Carvalho. So yeah, big weekend of fighting coming up. Okay, let's get started with Brian Castano today. Life and career. How's everybody though? It's Friday. Hope you stick around and enjoy the show. There we go. Brian Castano. Excuse me. Brian Carlos Castano is an Argentine professional boxer who has competed in the super welterweight division, best known for holding the WBO World Championship from 2021 to 2022. Okay, just one division fighter so far, 154. Born on September 12th, 1989 in Isidro Casanova, Buenos Aires in Argentina, okay? He earned the nickname El Boxy and turned professional in 2012 after a distinguished amateur career. With a professional record currently of 17 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws, including 12 knockouts. Castano's career highlights include capturing the WBA Super Welterweight regular title in 2018 and challenging for undisputed honors against Jermell Charlo twice in 2021 and then the rematch in 2022. Okay? Raised in the tough La Matanza neighborhood of Buenos Aires in Argentina, Castano grew up amid violence, but found structure in boxing, assisting his father, a former welterweight boxer himself and street sweeper, from a young age by selling water and training at a local gym to avoid street temptations. As an amateur, Castano compiled an impressive record of 181 wins, 5 losses, and 5 draws, securing a gold medal at the South American Games and notable victories over future professionals like Earl Spence Jr., whom he knocked down twice in an amateur fight. Okay? That amateur went over Earl, dropped him twice too. Castano's professional journey began with a debut win on September 22nd, 2012, and quickly progressed through regional titles before his breakthrough in 2017 with the WBA Super Welterweight interim title, followed by elevation to regular champion in 2018 after a series of victories, including a defense against Cedric Vaitu. He captured the vacant WBO Super Welterweight title in February 2021 by unanimous decision over Patrick Teixeira, marking his first world championship in the main alphabet organization. That July, Castano fought Jermell Charlo to a unification fight for all four major belts at 154, resulting in a controversial split draw after being ahead on 2 scorecards. Their rematch in May 2022 ended in a 10th round knockout loss for Castano, stripping him of the WBO title and halting his momentum. And that's been the last time he's been in the ring so far. Okay. We have and conquest. Yeah, that's what Castano pretty much did, didn't he? Salute and conquest. Cat Sports the Box Story in 2 to 4 Monday through Friday, bringing you all of that boxing history. Like and subscribe, please. But yeah, that's a good point. That's pretty much what he did, because what was it, 2022, the rematch? And he's went dog since then. But we're going to see what he's up to today. Not formally, didn't mention a formal retirement. So yeah, the salute, okay? Yeah, we just doing a brief summary of his career. We're going to go into more detail in a little while, okay? But yeah, he lost the rematch to Mel for undisputed in the second fight, May 2022. And that's been the last time he's been in the ring, going on his fourth year. Now, since the Charlo defeat, Castano has remained inactive as of the end of 2025, with no scheduled fights. Though potential matchups against fighters like Tim Tszyu have been speculated in boxing circles. Okay. Now, earlier in his career, Castano also had a draw with former champion Erislandy Lara in a 2019 WBA title eliminator, underscoring his resilience in high-stakes encounters. Now, throughout his tenure, Castano has been praised for his technical skill, pressure fighting style, and determination to elevate Argentine boxing on the global stage. Okay, so let's take a look at his early life now. Take a look at Brian Castano's early life. Okay. Early life. There's a shot of a young Castano. That's him on the left. I don't know if that's his brother or just another amateur fighter, but yeah. Early life for Brian Castano. Now, Brian Castano was born on September 12, 1989 in Isidro Casanova, a locality within La Matanza Partido in Buenos Aires province, Argentina. La Matanza, often referred to as the Slaughter, due to its historical and socioeconomic challenges, including high crime rates, shaped Castano's early environment. Raised in a working-class family amid poverty, Castano grew up in a neighborhood where economic hardship was prevalent, motivating many young people to seek paths out of difficult circumstances through sports like boxing. His father, Carlos Castano, a former professional welterweight boxer himself, who worked as a street sweeper, played a pivotal role in Brian's upbringing and introduction to the sport of boxing. From a young age, around 5, Castano assisted his father and brother in street sweeping jobs to support the family, instilling in him a strong work ethic and appreciation for perseverance. Yeah. And Conquest says Castano was the best in that division. And he would say he still is, respectfully. Okay. Yeah, I would like to see him get back in there because 54 is a good division right now. Yeah. And be some good matchups for Brian in there. So not officially retired, so maybe we'll see him again. Now, Castano's initial exposure to boxing came through his father's influence, as he frequented local gyms in Isidro Casanova in Argentina, observing and eventually participating in training sessions. At age 11, under his father's direct guidance, he began formal training and stepped into the ring for the first time, marking the start of his journey in the sport as a means to escape poverty and build a better future. This early mentorship in modest local facilities laid the foundation for its development, emphasizing discipline amid the surrounding socioeconomic pressure. Okay, let's look at Brian's amateur career now. Amateur career for Brian Castano. Here he is getting his hands raised to the amateur competition. Young Brian, okay? Now, Brian Castano compiled an impressive amateur boxing record of 181 wins, 5 losses, and 5 draws, showcasing his dominance in the unpaid ranks, primarily at welterweight. One of his major accomplishments came in 2010 when he won the gold medal at the South American Games in Medellin, Colombia, defeating Esquivel Falcao of Brazil by a 9-6 decision in the welterweight final. That's another future pro Falcao, right? Remember? Beat him by 9-6 in the welterweight final to win the gold medal in that tournament, right? Earlier that year, Castano had also secured victories in the tournament's earlier rounds, including a 12-1 decision over Marcos Quiros of Ecuador and a 7-1 win against Leonardo Carrillo of Colombia. Okay? So Castano's amateur journey included notable triumphs over future professional standouts. In 2011, during the international tournament in Venezuela, he defeated Earl Spence Jr. by unanimous decision, knocking the American down twice en route to victory. Dropped Earl twice on the way to beat him in the amateurs. He also bested Falcao, who would later claim Olympic silver in 2012. Okay? Those are a couple of good victories in the amateurs over some future pros. Falcao and Spence Jr. In 2009, Castano represented Argentina at the Amateur International Boxing Association World Championships in Milan, Italy, where he competed at welterweight, defeating Mark Basal of Australia 22-8 and John Romanovsky of Lithuania 21-5 before a 14-5 quarterfinal loss to Jack Kalkay-Keth of Germany. He later joined the World Series of Boxing in the 2012-2013 season with the Argentina Condors, going 3-0 with victories including a close 48-47, 49-46, 50-45 decision over previously unbeaten Sergei Derevyanchenko of Ukraine in the middleweight quarterfinals. So he got a couple of good wins over some future pros in the amateurs. Under the guidance of his father, Carlos Castano, a former professional boxer himself, Brian honed his skills through rigorous local and international competition, building a foundation that led him to turn professional in September of 2012. Okay, so now let's look at his. Let's go to his pro career. For Brian Castano, professional career now. Okay, how's everyone? It's Friday afternoon. Beautiful day. Professional career, Brian Castano now. Technique. What's up, technique? Salute. Take a look at Brian Castano today. Salute. Life and career, Brian Castano. Getting ready go through his professional career. Just briefly look at his resume. Not every fight, but some of the main fights. And then when we finish this, Castano is from Argentina. We're gonna look at 10 of the top Argentine fighters in boxing history, like King Carlos Monzon. Okay, but let's get into his pro career. The early professional career for Brian Castano. Now, Brian Castano made his pro boxing debut on September 22nd, 2012 at Estadio Luna Park in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where he secured a 4th-round technical knockout victory over Alejandro Antonio Dominguez in a scheduled 6-round fight. Now, this win marked the beginning of his transition from a successful amateur career, where he had compiled a record of 181 wins, 5 losses, and 5 draws, and won a South American Games gold medal. And this marked his transition to the paid ranks, leveraging his technical foundation while adapting to professional rules such as longer rounds and no headgear. Okay? He followed up his first win less than a month later with another stoppage, defeating Jose Carlos Paz by 5th-round TKO on October 20th, 2012. Now, Castano remained undefeated through his first 10 professional fights, achieving 5 wins by knockout or technical knockout, while facing primarily domestic and regional opponents in Argentina and Brazil. Notable victories in this stretch included a unanimous decision over Pablo Martin Rodon on January 26, 2013, a unanimous decision over Cesar Humberto Velez on May 25, 2013, and a unanimous decision over Brazilian Claudinel Lacerda on October 19, 2013. Okay, those were some notable wins in his amateur career. These fights helped him build experience against increasingly durable foes, with his aggressive pressure style leading to stoppages in over 70% of his early wins. By the end of 2015, after an 11th victory, a unanimous decision over Aaron Garcia on December 5th, Castano's record stood at 11-0 with 5 knockouts. During this period, Castano faced challenges in adjusting to the physical demands of professional boxing, including building stamina for extended fights and managing weight cuts. In the summer of 2014, he agreed to face Sebastian Lujan at welterweight, but fainted from dehydration during the weigh-in, forcing a postponement and a 7-month layoff that required psychological support to overcome the setback. Despite such hurdles, his early career demonstrated steady progress, focusing on regional development before pursuing higher contention. Okay, so now let's talk about his rise to contention. Rise to contention. Rise to contention for Brian Castano. Okay. Castano's ascent to contention in the light junior middleweight division accelerated in 2016 when he challenged for the WBA interim title against Emmanuel De Jesus on November 26 in Cordoba, Argentina. Now, entering the fight with an undefeated record of 12-0 with 6 knockouts, Castano overcame an early knockdown to dominate the fight, securing a 6-round knockout victory at 2:23 of the 6th round after landing a series of body shots that left De Jesus unable to continue. This win earned him the WBA interim super welterweight championship and marked his first major title, solidifying his status as a rising force in the division, 154. Okay? Super welterweight, junior middleweight, light middleweight, whatever you want to call it, 154. That's where he was at. Okay. Here we go. So, building on this success, Castano made his first defense of the interim title on July 1st, 2017 against undefeated French contender Michel Soro in Chamonix, France. The 12-round fight was a tactical affair, with Soro's southpaw style testing Castano's adaptability, but the Argentine boxer prevailed by split decision, 115-113 twice for Castano, and Soro one-on-one judges card 115-113 split decision, maintaining his unblemished record at 14-0 with 7 knockouts. This defense not only retained his belt, but also highlighted his growing international presence, as the fight was strategically scheduled in Europe. to increase visibility against a high-profile regional opponent. Okay? So by late 2017, Castano's consistent performances had propelled him into the top 10 rankings across major sanctioning bodies, including the WBA, where he was recognized as interim champion and a key contender. This period capped an early professional undefeated streak that began with foundational wins in Argentina and the United States, positioning him for full championship opportunity. His record through 2017 stood at 14-0 with 7 knockouts, reflecting a blend of knockout power and decision-making prowess that drew attention from global promoters. All right, so the WBA junior middleweight titles. Okay, so right now he was interim. So eventually he became the full WBA champion. Let's take a look at that. Kadich, is that you? What's happening? I haven't seen you in a while. Salute, Kadich. Happy New Year to you. Good to see you again. Yeah, that's you, because I see the wrench on there. Salute. Yeah, we're looking at the life and career of Brian Castano today, Kadich. Good to see you. Okay. Salute. Happy New Year. Okay. So WBA middleweight title. Remember, he's the interim currently at this point. Now, Brian Castano was elevated to WBA regular super welterweight champion on October 30th, 2017, following the stripping of previous title holder Demetrius Andrade due to inactivity. This promotion came after Castano had previously held the WBA interim title, which he defended once, establishing him as a credible contender in the division. So he didn't fight for it. He got elevated to the full champion or the regular champion, whatever the WBA, super champion, whatever the WBA called it, because Boo Boo was stripped. Remember that? And Castano got elevated. Okay, but he did make a defense of it. So, they really make, they call it the email champion, but he did make a defense of it. So that makes it really, legitimate champion. So after he was elevated, his first defense as regular champion occurred on March 10th, 2018 against French contender Cedric Vaitou at La Seine Musicale in Villancourt, France. Castano dominated the fight, dropping Vaitou in the 12th round with a series of hooks before securing a technical knockout at 2:27 of the 12th and final round, improving his record to 15-0 with 8 knockouts. This win solidified his status as champion and showcased his pressure fighting style against a durable opponent who had never been stopped before. So yeah, this solidified him as a champion, because remember, he got elevated because Boo Boo was stripped. But he did, when he made a successful defense, that solidified him as a champion, right? Yeah. Okay, so then he made his first successful defense. Castano's sole mandatory defense took place on March, so he got a mandatory now. And his sole mandatory defense took place on March 2nd, 2019, against former WBA and IBF champion in the division, Erslandy Lara, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. The 12-round fight ended in a split draw with scores of 115-113 for Lara and 114-114 twice. Dude, that's a majority draw, right? The draw got the majority. Split draw is when two judges go for each fighter, and the third calls it a draw. But this was a majority draw. Lara won 115-113, and then two judges had it 114-114. Excuse me, majority draw. And this allowed Castano to retain his title, despite a competitive and controversial fight marked by Castano's aggressive volume punching, countered by Lara's counterpunching. Now, during his regular title reign from October 2017 to mid-2019, Castano maintained an undefeated record of 1 win, no losses, 1 draw in title fights, enhancing his profile in the super welterweight division. He only had 2 fights. He had that draw in his first defense, remember? No. He won his first defense, and then he had the draw with Lara. Okay? Now, the draw with Lara opened discussions for potential unification fights with other belt holders in the division, increasing Castano's visibility on major platforms, though health challenges briefly interrupted his momentum. In early 2019, Castano experienced panic attacks following intense training sessions, which he described as uncontrollable episodes that tested his mental resilience, but ultimately strengthened his preparation for high-stakes fights. Okay. Castano vacated the WBA regular title in June of 2019 amid a contract dispute with mandatory challenger Michel Soro over purse bid terms for an ordered rematch. Remember, Soro was the one he beat in his first defense. So he got ordered to fight him in a rematch, but they couldn't get the purse bid together, so he vacated. And the WBA declared the belt vacant, but Castano had already vacated. Following the vacating, Castano returned on November 2nd, 2019, defeating Wale Omatoso by 5th-round technical knockout due to a shoulder injury to Omatoso at the MGM Grand National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland. This improved his record to 16 wins, no losses, 1 draw, with 12 knockouts. Now, this decision allowed him to pursue alternative opportunities outside the WBA framework, marking the end of a 20-month reign as a WBA champion that elevated his career trajectory despite the abbreviated defense. So WBO junior middleweight title, okay? WBO junior middleweight title. Okay, this is when he went up against Patrick Teixeira. This is the belt he had when he went up against Mel, remember? Just Do Boxing in the building. Luke, Just Do. Coming up at 4 p.m. That's who I'm warming you up for. That balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Everybody gets their Just Do at Just Do Boxing. Luke, Just Do. The life and career of Brian Castano today. We're at the point now he had the WBA, but he vacated that because he had a mandatory and they couldn't get the purse bid together. They was about to strip him, so he vacated it. So now, WBO junior middleweight title. About to go for that. Okay. On February 13th, 2021, Brian Castano captured the vacant WBO junior middleweight title by defeating Patrick Teixeira by a unanimous decision over 12 rounds at the Fantasy Springs Resort Casino in Indio, California. Castano dominated the fight with relentless pressure and high-volume punching, outlanding Teixeira 173 of 586 total punches to Teixeira's 164 of 686, according to CompuBox stats. Okay, let's see what those percentages are real quick. It's the only one. Okay. So Castano had 29%, right? And Teixeira had they actually do the same amount of punching. Castano had 29%. Teixeira had I did not just keep on. Teixeira had 27%. 29% to 27%. Okay, let's continue. But he beat Teixeira for the WBO title. That's how he got that. That's the one he had when he went against Mel, remember? So yeah, according to CompuBox stat. Now, the official scores were 120, 108, 119, 109, and 117, 111, all in favor of Castano very widely. And this marks his first world title in the division outside his prior WBA regular title. Okay. All right. So his first defense was Mel. Okay. Castano made his first defense of the WBO title on July 17th, 2021 against Jermell Charlo in a unification fight for undisputed junior middleweight champion status at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. Because remember, Mel had the WBA, IBF, and WBC titles. Mel was 3-belt unified coming in. Castano had the WBO. This was at Jury World, AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. Now, or Arlington, somewhere down there in Texas, at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Okay, where is it? Arlington? Right? Okay, but anyway, went up against Mel. The fight ended in a split draw after 12 rounds with scores of 114, 114, 114, 113 for Castano, and 117, 111 for Charlo. Yeah, that's the split draw, because each one of them got a judge, and the third one had a draw. The last one was majority because the draw got 2 of the judges and the majority, right? So him and Mel had a split draw. So nothing was settled. Castano kept his WBO, Mel kept the other 3. Castano's tactical pressure style kept the fight competitive as he pressed forward aggressively while Jermell countered from range, leading to a back and forth exchange that many observers scored closely in Castano's favor. The draw allowed Castano to retain his WBO belt, though it prevented unification. Now, me, Sips, I had Castano winning that close to like 115, 113, but I wasn't mad at the draw. You couldn't call it a robbery, but I did have Castano, but you couldn't be mad at the draw. Mel didn't take no chances in the rematch. Let's talk about the rematch, okay? The rematch took place on May 14th, 2022 at Michelob Ultra Arena in Paradise, Nevada. Again, for undisputed honors, right? Because they both still had the same belt. Now, Charlo stopped Castano in the 10th round by knockout, ending Castano's WBO reign after 15 months. In a decisive round, Charlo scored 2 knockdowns, a left hook to the head, followed by a body shot, prompting referee Russell Mora to halt the fight at 117 of the round. Okay? 117 of the 10th round. Castano's pressure approach initially troubled Charlo, but faltered as fatigue set in, contributing to the one-sided finish to the fight. Okay, yeah, so Mel became undisputed. Castano lost his WBO title. Okay. Now, during his WBO Junior Middleweight Championship tenure from 2021 to 2022, because he had the WBA from like 17 to 21, but during his WBO tenure from 21 to 22, Castano compiled a record of 1 win, no loss, 1 draw in title fights prior to the rematch loss, highlighted by his aggressive forward marching style that pressured opponents into grueling competitive encounters. So recent activity and status, what's going on with Brian now? Recent activity and status. There's Brian. He hadn't fought in a minute, but not officially retired either. No official retirement announcement. As a matter of fact, he haven't fought since 2022. Since the Mel rematch, right? No official retirement. Recent activity and status. Let's take a look at that. The following his 10th round TKO loss to Mel in May of 2022, which unified the junior middleweight titles under Mel Charlo, Brian Castano has not competed in any professional fight since. As of the end of 2025, no fights were scheduled for the 36-year-old Argentine fighter. 36 years old too, yeah. what we say, about 33 when he fought Mel, 36 years old. Now, Castano's prolonged inactivity has fueled discussion about a possible retirement, though he has made no official announcement regarding his future in the sport of boxing. At age 36, with a career spanning from 2012 to 2022 actively, he appears to have shifted focus away from active competition. He's still actually active, but he actively competed for 10 years, 12 to 22, because he hadn't competed since the Mel fight in 2022. But like I said, no official announcement of retirement yet. Okay. Now, throughout his pro career, Castano compiled a record of 17 wins, 1 loss, and the 2 draws with 12 knockouts. Okay. Establishing himself as a multi-time world champion in the junior middleweight division. Okay. His knockout ratio is 70.5%. 70.5%. Okay. So yeah. Multi-time world champion at junior middleweight, though. He is remembered as a pivotal figure in Argentine boxing, often called the hope of Argentine boxing, for his rise to the top of the 154-pound ranks and his resilient performances against elite opponents like Jamel Charlo and Erslandy Lara. Okay? So winding down on Brian, let's look at his boxing style and attributes. Okay, let's take a look at his style, boxing style and attributes for Brian Castano. Okay? Boxing style and attributes. Okay, fighting style. Yeah, we're gonna look at some other boxers from Argentina. 10 of the top boxers from Argentina after this. Okay, fighting style for Brian Castano. Okay, Brian Castano is a pressure-oriented orthodox fighter who employs a forward-moving style characterized by high-volume punching to overwhelm and wear down opponents over the course of a fight. This approach involves relentless aggression, closing distance aggressively while countering incoming attacks, making him particularly effective in close-range exchanges where he can unleash combinations. His style has remained consistent since his amateur days, lacking major surprises, but proving highly effective through sustained pressure rather than one-punch knockout power. In his 2021 title fight against Jamel Charlo, Castano incorporated head movement, such as bobbing and weaving, to slip counters while advancing. He often used the flicking right hand to the body to set up headshots and maintain offensive momentum. Now, key strengths include exceptional stamina that enables him to sustain 12-round wars and a focus on body punching to sap opponents' energy, as demonstrated in his pressure against Charlo. However, his predictable and risky forward pressure leaves him vulnerable to powerful counterpunching, evident in his 2022 knockout loss to Charlo, where he absorbed heavy shots during exchanges. Okay? Now, physical attributes for Castano. We're going to look at some other Argentine boxers. Physical attributes for Brian Castano, though. Take a drink real quick. Excuse me for 1 second. We got Just Do Boxing coming up in about an hour. Okay. Physical attributes for Brian Castano. Let me renew that. I'm listening back. Like and subscribe, please. Appreciate it. Appreciate you, Cottage. All right, physical attribute. Now, Brian Castano stands at 5'7.5" tall with a reach of 67.5 inches and fights out of the orthodox stand. His height to reach ratio reflects a compact build typical for pressure-oriented fighters in his division. Now, throughout his professional career, Castano has competed exclusively in the junior middleweight, also known as super welterweight or light middleweight division, at 154 his entire career so far, with a weight limit of 154 pounds, okay? At 5'7.5" his height is below averages reported for adjacent divisions such as welterweight, which is around 5'11", and middleweight, around 6 foot even. However, his relatively short stature and balanced proportions have enabled effective leverage in close range exchanges and clinches, contributing to his inside fighting prowess. Okay? So, Castano made his pro debut on September 22nd, 2012, at the age of 23. He reached his prime in his early 30s, capturing world titles between 2021 and 2022. Known for his durability, Castano has no reports of major long-term injuries. Notable incidents include a minor right biceps tear in February 2022 that sidelined him briefly, and fainting due to dehydration in 2014, which led to a 7-month layoff and subsequent brief panic attack during training recovery. Okay, and there you have it. The life and career of Brian Castano. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the top 10 Argentine boxers from Argentina in boxing history. 10 of the top from Argentina. Okay, 10 of the top. There we go. Let's do it perfect. No, it ain't. Okay, let's get this up. How's everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying this show. We're gonna look at some. We did Brian Castano. We're gonna look at some other Argentine boxers now. 10 of them. We might take a deep look at Carlos Monzon, since we got some time. Probably the greatest Argentine boxer of all time. Yeah. Carlos had some troubles outside the ring, but he was the man. He didn't lose for the last 13 years of his career. I think he had like an 87 fight winning streak. Let's get into it. 10 of the top boxers from Argentina in boxing history. Okay. Sergio Martinez is one of them. But number 10 is Luis Firpo. Yeah, that is Luis Firpo. That's when he knocked Jack Dempsey out the ring in 1921 or 2. 21 or 22, yeah. That's Firpo. See Jack Dempsey going through the ropes. And Jack Dempsey actually got up and won the fight. He knocked Firpo down 7 times in the first round, and Firpo knocked him down that 1 time. So 8 knockdowns in the first round. Then in the second round, he knocked Firpo down 2 more times, including stopping it on the second time. So 10 knockdowns in 2 rounds. Firpo went down 9 times, and Jack Dempsey went through the rope. He landed on the table where the sports writers were at. Right, they got him back in the ring, and then the bell rang in the round. And Jack got to the corner and said, "Who won the fight?" They said, "No, that's just the first round, Jack." But Luis Firpo, talking about 10 fighters from Argentina. Now, Luis Firpo was known as the Wall Bull of the Pampas. He's a boxing figure whose legend far surpasses his actual ring accomplishment. But his legend is so immense that it's enough to supplement his resume and earn him inclusion on this list as 10 of the top fighters from Argentina. He's the first name that well-informed boxing fans think of when they think of Argentina. And no article on the nation's boxing history could be complete without mentioning Luis Firpo. Okay? He was a big and athletically powerful fighter. Firpo would have been a handful in any era, In the 1920s, he was a phenom. After debuting in North America, he won 12 straight fights, including wins over Bill Brennan and Jess Willard, to earn a shot at heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey. This fight right there. Now, the showdown between Firpo and Dempsey remains among the most celebrated fights in heavyweight boxing history. It was perhaps the most violent 2 rounds in the history of the sport. Dempsey dropped the charging bull 7 times in the first round. But along the way, Firpo managed to knock Dempsey completely out of the ring. And then Dempsey dropped him 2 more times in the second round, including stopping him. Okay? An indication of Firpo's lasting popularity throughout Latin America is the fact that a football team in El Salvador is named after him. Okay? All right, that's number 10. Number 9, 10 of the top fighters from Argentina, is Justo Suarez. Justo Suarez. It's Justo. It's Justo. Okay. So Justo Suarez is a figure somewhat like his near contemporary Louis Firpo. His mystique is bigger than his resume, but like Firpo, the lightweight, little bull of Mataderos, was an important national hero for Argentine boxing fans. He grew up in a large and desperately poor family, and by age 9 was already working in a slaughterhouse to help support the family. Okay, by age 9. He emerged from the streets as a popular brawler, but began to add technical finesse to his approach as his professional career blossomed. Suarez became the Argentine lightweight champion, and his fights packed stadiums and brought out European royalty and Argentine political leaders. At the time of his death by tuberculosis in 1938, he had begun to emerge as a popular attraction in the United States and was cementing his status as a world title contender. He died during his career from tuberculosis, okay? And the only two losses of his career appear to come after the dreaded lung disease that started to afflict him. Okay, but we're still fighting. Number 8, Santos Laciar. There's some other Argentine fighters. Since we covered Brian Castano today from Argentina. Santos Laciar, okay? One of 3 flyweights on this list. Santos Laciar was an elite 112-pound world champion in the 1980s. In 1981, he captured the WBA version of the belt by knocking out Peter Matabula in 7 rounds. At the time, Carlos Monzon had recently retired, and Victor Galindez had died tragically, so Laciar's ascent made him an instant hero to Argentine boxing fans. He dropped the belt to Luis Ibarra in only his second defense, but would reclaim the belt in 1982 by stopping Juan Herrera with a round 13 TKO. Laciar would defeat Ibarra in a rematch to hold the WBA flyweight title for 3 years, defending it often before vacating it to move up to 115 pounds. In 1987, he became a 2-division world champion by beating Gilberto Roman for the WBC Super Flyweight belt. 2-division champion, 112 and 115. Number 7 is the good one. Everybody probably heard of him. Oscar Bonavena. Here he is fighting Ali. He never won a title, but he fought. If he hadn't fought in the 70s, he fought in that era, greatest era ever of heavyweight. Fought them all, Ali, Frazier, all of them. But never won a title because of the era he fought in. If he fought nowadays, he would definitely be a champion. Oscar Bonavena. Here he is fighting the greatest. Okay? The Louis Firpo is the more famous Argentine heavyweight, but Oscar Bonavena has the better resume. fighting in the division's golden age of the 1960s and 1970s. He was a top contender, okay? Who gave some of the best fighters of all time extremely difficult work. Bonavina went the distance twice with Joe Frazier, knocking Smoking Joe down twice and losing by split decision in their first fight, okay? He gave Muhammad Ali a battle before losing by round 15 TKO. Went 15 with Joe twice and 15 with Ali, okay? Bonavina also went the distance with world champions Floyd Patterson and Jimmy Ellis, and against hard punching contender Ron Lyle. Among the fighters he beat were top contender Zor Farley and George Chuvalo, as well as European champion Carl Mildenberg. Oscar Bonavina, great Argentine fighter, right there. Next, Horacio Accavallo. It's Horacio on the right, in the dark shorts, in the dark color shorts. Horacio Accavallo. Okay, we're just looking at some other Argentine fighters now. That's the profile today. Brian Castano was an Argentine fighter. Had some good ones too. Horacio Accavallo is next. Talk about Horacio briefly. I promise I ain't gonna bore y'all, just briefly. Now Horacio, standing just 5'1", he was a flyweight star in the 1960s who retired as the reigning WBA champion, okay? And we only had two sanctioning bodies back then, WBA and WBC. So being a champion in either one of them really meant something then. We didn't have no 20 champions in each weight class, only had 2. Most times 1. But that was after WBA and WBC had split after the Liston Ali rematch. Okay. In 1965, Accavallo was the #1 contender for the title, but Salvatore Baruni vacated rather than face Accavallo, who had already knocked him down and defeated him by 10-round decision. So the champion vacated rather than face him. But to secure the vacant belt, Accavallo traveled to Tokyo and beat Kazuyoshi Takayama by split decision. He did get the belt. Accavallo lost just twice in more than 80 fights. His first defeat came early in his career, and he did not lose again for nearly a decade until moving up to face undefeated bantamweight Hiroshi Tanabe late in his career. Only lost twice, once early in his career and once late in his career, in over 80 fights. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Bear with me for a second. I lost the display, but it'll come back. Oh, I hit something. I'm glad I didn't end the stream. Be back in a moment. Hope y'all can hear me. Let me get this thing back going for us. There we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I hit something. Live. Yeah, we're live. Hope y'all can hear me, but I'll be back in a second. There we go. Okay. I put myself back in the stream. Oh, Lord have mercy. Now, okay. Can y'all hear me? Okay, I should be back. Oh, now I'm getting an echo. Wow. Testing. Now I'm getting bigger. Okay. Y'all hear me? Bear with me a minute. Testing. 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 Okay, let me go out and come back in. Okay. Testing. Okay. Okay. Man, can't get that echo out of it. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's continue then. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's continue then. Okay. All right, let's. We was looking at the Argentine fighter. Other than Carlos Ortiz, Brian Castano. Okay, appreciate the boxing podcast. And the last one we did was Horatio Acavalla. So we're to Sergio Martinez. Sergio Martinez. There's Sergio. He fought like within the last 20 years. Remember? Yeah. 2000. Sergio Martinez. He was WBC and lineal middleweight champion. And he could have accomplished so much more in his career. When you consider he didn't even take up boxing until he was 20 years old, right? Prior to that, he had been an excellent soccer player and cycling. Okay? His natural athleticism was a major weapon in his arsenal, as his tricky southpaw style and explosive power made him one of his generation's most dangerous fighters. His single-shot knockout of Paul Williams in 2010 is one of the most iconic knockouts of this generation. 2010, like what, 15, 16 years ago. And fought till he was 39 and was one of the top middleweight fighters of his era, Sergio Martinez. All right, looking at some Argentine fighters. Victor Galindez, another good one. Yeah, Victor Galindez. There's Victor. There's Victor in the white trunk. White trunk. Yeah. A physically powerful and relentless fighter, Victor Galindez held the WBA light heavyweight title for most of the second half of the 1970s, which was one of the division's most competitive eras. He captured the belt in 1974 from Lynn Hutchins. In the late 70s into the 80s, I think was the best time ever for light heavyweight. He was a champion for part of that period with the Galindez. Galindez recorded victories over Eddie Mustafa Muhammad and 2 each over Richie Cates and the legendary Yaki Lopez. He dropped the belt to Mike Rossman by round 13 TKO in a war, and then won it back by forcing Rossman to retire in his corner following round 9 in the rematch. Galindez lost the title to Marvin Johnson in another classic fight in 1979. And in 1980, he died in stock cars at age 31. Wow, winning the race in stock cars with Galindez. And now we're looking at like the top 3 Argentine fighters. The legendary Pascual Perez. Of course, that's Pascual in the white trunk, white short. Pascual Perez. Legendary. And Perez, at just 4 foot 11 inches tall, Perez was the first world champion for Argentina. First Argentine fighter to win a belt. He was an Olympic gold medalist in 1948 as well. And he fought as an amateur for an extended period of time before turning pro. He won the flyweight world title in 1954 and held it for 6 years, defending it 9 times while fighting 30 more times in non-title fights. He was somewhat unusual for an Argentine fighter in that he traveled abroad to fight on a regular basis. In the Ultimate Book of Boxing list, Teddy Atlas rates Perez as the 4th best flyweight of all time. And Bert Sugar places him 2nd. That's high praise. 4th, Teddy Atlas. 2nd, from the legendary Bert Sugar, legendary boxing historian. And the top 2 Argentine fighters, number 2, the great Nicolino Loche. People talk about great defensive fighters. They don't mention Nicolino Loche. He's right up there with Willie Pep, Floyd, and Sweet Pea. When you're talking about great defensive fighters, Nicolino Loche is in the same conversation with them. You know, you're talking defense. Willie Pep, Floyd, Sweet Pea is at the top of the conversation. Nicolino Loche belongs right there with him. His nickname was the Untouchable. So if your nickname is the Untouchable in boxing, you got to be a great defensive fighter, right? Man, nicknamed the Untouchable. Nicknamed the Untouchable, Nicolino Loche had a style that ran counter to the come forward brawling that is most often associated with Argentine greats. He ranks among the top defensive wizards in boxing history. But he was no runner. He most often stood directly in front of an opponent and used his otherworldly reflexes to evade punches with his hands hanging at his side. Loach won all 15 rounds on all 3 judges' cards against Antonio Cervantes, a Hall of Famer. Okay? And then rope-a-dope, Ali did against Foreman and Loach was doing that back when he fought 50. The rope-a-dope. He just didn't call it the rope. Ali gave it the rope-a-dope the name, but it wasn't no new tactic with Ali. Nicolino, Loach, Archibald, all of them was doing that back in the 40s. Yeah. And he won all 15 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards against another Hall of Famer, the great Antonio Cervantes. The only fault Loach had as a fighter was his lack of knockout power. In 136 fights, he had just 14 stoppages. But when you're a great defensive fighter like Nicolino Loach, you don't need knockout power. Okay, and of course, number 1 for Argentina is the legendary King Carlos Monzon. King Carlos. Okay. This thing is picking up every little sound. Okay. King Carlos Monzon. Yeah, but that sounds good on this. Everything's cool. Okay, let's take a look at King Carlos. Probably the best fighter ever out of Argentina. Carlos Monzon. Appreciate everybody who came through today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Brian Castano. He hadn't fought since that rematch. Mel was 2022, but no official retirement announcement though. So we may see him again. No contest that he was probably the best at 154 and still is. He comes back. Some good matchups for him there. Love to see Castano come back. Subriel is tomorrow. Edget Caballero. I would say Edget Caballero is the biggest threat to Usyk. But Usyk's not going to fight him. Why would he? You can't blame him. Usyk's legacy is set. He'll probably fight Fabio Wardley. Okay, we're going to take a look at King Carlos Monzon now. Greatest Argentine fighter in boxing history. Stay with me for one moment, please. Yeah, King Carlos, he went to prison. He threw his girlfriend off of a second floor balcony. And then he was out of prison on furlough and died in a car accident on the way back. Where did you get a furlough from prison when you're in there on murder? Okay, King Carlos Monzon. The great tortured Carlos Monzon. 100 pro fights, some of them comprising of early, fledgling career defeats with 9 draws and a no contest, but never ever a stoppage loss suffered. Not even close. Carlos Monzon, who was born in 1942, on August 7th, 1942, was far too tough. He was much too savagely determined, and he was far too hungry for adulation and respect to ever let another man knock him out. Monzon was uncrackable. Hitting him was akin to belting a tree with a gloved hand. The middleweight division has boasted some fine, undamageable chins throughout its history. Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Robinson, Gennady Golovkin, Canelo Alvarez, but it's possible Carlos Monzon's chin, his mandible, was the sturdy. Of course, there's far more than just a great chin when it comes to the assets that belong to this Argentine terror. And the word is applicable in and out of the ring, sadly. Monzon was also an underrated boxer with a cunning ring IQ. Monzon was also a great, at times, brutal puncher. And Monzon had a seemingly unlimited stash when it came to stamina. Yes. Unlimited stamina. Monzon may have been temporarily hurt in the odd fight, and he may have been behind on the cards as he was being outboxed for periods of the fight before coming on to turn things around. But never was Monzon close to running out of gas in the fight. Monzon trained hard, but he also smoked, drank, and partied harder than hard. So it is quite amazing the great engine that Monzon had. Smoked, drank, partied, everything, right? Trained by the legendary Amilcar Brewster, Monzon soon found out and showed others he was a born fighter, raw and ungainly early on. The critics would say throughout his career. The long-arm bruiser who couldn't stand the idea of losing had a bumpy start to his pro career, with the man who would go on to become globally celebrated by the nickname Escopeta, which means shotgun, losing his 9th, 14th, and 20th fight. And with Monzon drawing no less than 5 of his first 30 fights, had draws in 5 of his first 30 fights. But Monzon, when he found his groove, when he settled in and began utilizing all of his skills, was all but unbeatable, untouchable. It was a genuine shock when a still unknown outside of Argentina, Monzon wrecked superstar Italian reigning middleweight king Nino Benvenuti, this by 12th round knockout in 1970. Monzon arrived in Rome as a stranger, but he left as a man of terror who had smashed the hero. Monzon may have been largely unknown prior to the title fight, but he had more than cut his teeth in hard fights with the likes of Bad Benny Briscoe, Juan Aguilar, and Tom Bethea. Monzon ripped the crown from the beloved Benvenuti, and he went to Italy, Benvenuti's home, and did it. And he had zero thoughts of ever giving it up. 14 title retentions followed, with King Carlos defeating superb fighters such as Benvenuti in a rematch, this time in just 3 rounds. Emil Griffith, Tom Barr, Bad Benny Briscoe twice, Emil Griffiths again, Jose Napoles, and finally, in 2 close encounters that were made closer due to Monzon's age of 35, the great Rodrigo Valdez. Those were 2 great fights, Monzon and Valdez. Monzon went out on top. His place in the history books secured. his place in the hearts of the Argentine people, even more so, for a while. Monzon, who drank as hard as he fought, is perhaps best known today for the horrific violence he committed outside the boxing ring. Most notoriously on his wife, but what his girlfriend, his wife. Most notoriously on his wife, Alicia Muñiz. This when an out of it Monzon committed murder in 1988. He threw her off from the second floor balcony. Then he jumped off behind her to try to act like they had both fell off. But she died, he survived. I think somebody saw it, right? He was sentenced to life in prison. Monzon's was perhaps the most sensationally sordid fall from grace imaginable. Today, had he lived, Monzon, who died in the 1995 car crash that occurred as he was on the way back to jail following a furlough that had been granted due to good behavior, would be 81 years old. Looking back, well, 81, be 82 this year. Looking back, it's clear the reckless, often uncontrollable Monzon was never likely to reach old age. You know, when I first heard he died in a car accident, I had heard he had been in prison for life. I was like, how did he die in a car accident? But he had got a furlough for good behavior. But a murderer? I know in the United States, I don't care if you murder somebody in prison, I don't care how good you behave, you ain't getting no furlough. And he was on his way back. You give most murderers a furlough, they ain't on their way back to the prison. But anyway, yeah. Even if he hadn't went to prison, he lived the type of life that he was never likely to reach old age, okay? However, in terms of what he accomplished in the ring, Monzon was special. He was untouchable. He will never be forgotten. Monzon's ring accomplishment will never go old, just as the fighter never did. Yep. Final record, 109 fights, 87 wins, 3 losses, well, 110 fights. 87 wins, 3 losses, 9 draws, 1 no contest. 59 by knockout for King Carlos Monzon. Arguably the greatest middleweight of all time. I got Harry Greb, Monzon, then Hagler. Any order, those are the top 3. Now, Sugar Ray Robinson is the top at welterweight, but middleweight, I got them 3 in front of Sugar Ray. Sugar Ray took some L's at, he had a 67.8 knockout ratio, Monzon, but Sugar Ray took some L's at middleweight. He only took 1 loss at welterweight, but middleweight, he took some L's. So I got King Carlos, Hagler, and Harry Greb in front of Sugar Ray. Mike Mazza in the building. What's up, Mike Mazza? How are you today? We took a look at Sergio Martinez and some other fighters from Argentina. We're at the end of another big week of boxing history on Castano, the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. This is the first full week of the year. Got another big week coming up next week. I know we're gonna look at the NBA/WBA. We're gonna look at looking at all the sanctioning bodies and titles, because we looked at the New York State Athletic Commission yesterday, which was never a sanctioning body, but they were a major title back in the day. Undisputed was the New York State Athletic Commission and the National Boxing Association. And so next week, we're going to look at the NBA/WBA. We're going to look at them together. It started as the NBA, then it turned into the WBA in 1962. Went from National Boxing Association to World Boxing Association, because at that time, boxing was becoming so international. And then, in 1963, the WBC came in. Then the IBF came like 82. And by 84, they were recognized by the other big ones, WBA, WBC. Because the IBF came in and they started handing out titles to stars Like they made Larry Holmes the heavyweight champion, Aaron Pryor, people like that. Now the WBO came in 1988, but they took like 16 years until 2004 before the other three recognized them as the major sanctioning body. Because the WBA, they didn't come in like the IBF and just start giving up belts to big names and get that recognition. But finally, by 2004, the other three, they became let the WBO be a part of the party. Yeah. So now we got four major sanctioning bodies with like 200 champions at any time in the sport, with the interims, the regulars, the supers, champions in recess, all that kind of stuff. 17 divisions, okay? And then 17 women's divisions also, right? So do the math. All those champions. But even hardcore fans sometimes don't know who the champion is. Or who the legitimate champion is, right? A lot of people say it's the WBC. So what makes them the most prestigious belt? The other people champions and the others thinking about is just as hard as the WBC champion do. So, but they separate. They first separated in Ali and Muhammad because they had both sanctioned the rematch when they first fought, but then for some reason before the rematch, the WBA stripped Ali, right? But Ali did reunify him because Ernie Terrell ended up with the title, and Ali beat Ernie Terrell later in the 60s and got the WBA back. But then again, in 1978, Ali was involved again when they got separated because it was Leon Spinks beat Ali for the WBA, and WBC was undisputed. But then the WBC wanted Leon Spinks to fight their champion, Ken Norton. But do the math. Leon Spinks said, I'm fighting the rematch with Ali because it was way better payday. And you was coming off a win against Ali too, as a 7-fight novice. So Spinks fought Ali and the WBC stripped him and gave it to Norton. So that's when they became split up again. And then now we got 4 of them. And just about got 4 different champions in almost every division. That's crazy. And don't look like they're trying to get undisputed. That would be nice. But the fight is really, I can't blame them for not wanting to be undisputed because then you got to pay percentage of your bag to 4 different organizations because all 4 sanctioning bodies in their title fights, they want a certain percentage of your purse. So I wouldn't want to be no 4-belt undisputed either, right? So just give me 1 belt. I just get sanctioning fees in 1 organization. But boxing is crazy like that. But we love it. Only thing I would say, the biggest thing boxing needs to do is make their rules universal everywhere. Because state to state, country to country, you got different rules. Even down to the type of tape you can use on your handwriting. Or you can come up with your inches a certain amount of inches or whatever in one state and somewhere else wrap your hands differently. And they even got where illegal banned substances lists are different in certain states. How can something be a dangerous illegal banned substance in one state and be okay in another state? If it's dangerous and illegal in one state, shouldn't it be dangerous and illegal somewhere else? That's the only part I would say. It's the only sport like that, where the rules change depending on where you compete at. And the other sport is the same everywhere, right? The boxing is the only one like that. That's what would be the, if they told me one thing I can change about boxing, that would be it. Make all the rules universal everywhere. the way you wrap your hands, the band surfaces, everything would be the same. Even down to the ring size. I would say all the rings would be the same size. You know, you have an 18 foot, 20 foot, 22 foot. I would make it the same ring size everywhere. Mm-hmm. But you know, having things different like that enables them to be corrupt. Right? Okay, but Just Do Boxing is coming up next. That's the week on Cast Just the Box Story. Appreciate everybody that came by. We're gonna have another one, another big week of boxing history. Nate, tune in next Thursday. I know we're gonna be talking about the NBA/WBA, National Boxing Association/World Boxing Association. I think the National Boxing Association came in 1921, and then it changed to the World Boxing Association in 1962. Yep. But appreciate everybody. Mike Massey, Just Do Boxing, Caught It, Technique, and Conquest. Mike Run, the Boxing Menu Podcast, BVO Sports TV, and Miss Cass. Everybody have a great weekend. Great, safe weekend. So we over this, as you call by yellow action tomorrow, and others. Those are the big two names. And then we got Turtle next Friday, and he got a fight lined up with David Benavidez, right? Suppose he loses next Friday. It'll take some of the shine off the Benavidez, right? But we got Just Do Boxing coming up next. This is Cass with the Box Story. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Appreciate y'all. Everybody have a good